All right, Bulls fans, before we get into this one, do me a favor and smash that like button, because this video is going to make some of you mad, and that's exactly the kind of energy I want to see in the comments. Drop your take down below. Tell me if you agree or if you think I'm dead wrong, and let's get into it. Because honestly, this offseason has felt different for the Chicago Bulls. For years, we've been stuck in the same loop, watching the front office cling to guys who never panned out, watching us play it safe, watching us stay stuck in the mushy middle of the Eastern Conference. But something actually shifted this summer, and I think it's worth breaking down before we talk about the guy who might be the odd man out. First, the front office got a total makeover. Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Eversley are gone, and Bryson Graham is now the man calling the shots for basketball operations. That alone is a bigger deal than people are giving it credit for, because a new voice at the top usually means new priorities, new evaluations, and zero emotional attachment to the guys the old regime overpaid or overdrafted. And on top of that front office shakeup, the Bulls also landed a new head coach in Tiago Splitter, who's stepping in to lead this team into a new era. Then the lottery gods actually smiled on us for once. Remember when we used to just accept whatever bad luck the ping pong balls handed us? Not this year. The Bulls jumped from the 9th pick all the way up to number 4, and that jump let them grab Caleb Wilson, who a lot of draft analysts consider one of the most talented prospects in this entire class. And it didn't stop there, because thanks to that old Portland Trail Blazers first-round pick, Chicago also scooped up Dalen Swain at 15. 2 new pieces. 2 guys who were supposed to be part of the young core going forward, joining Matas Buzelis and Josh Giddey as building blocks. Now here's the part that really tells you what direction this front office wants to go. Instead of chasing win-now moves, they use their cap space to bring in a couple of veterans whose whole job is to mentor these young guys. Norman Powell came over on a 2-year deal that's actually team-friendly, which almost never happens in this league anymore. And Nick Claxton joined too on a contract that's trending downward instead of ballooning, which tells you Chicago wasn't trying to make a splash. They were trying to make a plan. So here's my read on all of this. Roster fit was clearly not the top priority this summer. Development was. And I get it. I actually respect that approach. But let's be honest with each other for a second, because this current group is missing some things, especially perimeter depth. It's almost funny when you think back to the mess we had last season with way too many guards clogging up the roster and not enough shooting or spacing around them. Now we've swung hard in the other direction. Because look at what Bryson Graham has actually built here. Wilson, Buzelis, Swain, Isaac Okoro, Leonard Miller, and Patrick Williams are all guys who play the bulk of their minutes at the 3 or the 4. Even Jalen Smith showed flashes last year that he can hold down minutes at power forward when needed. That is an insane logjam of wings and forwards, and it means somebody in that group is going to be left standing without a chair when the music stops. And I think we all kind of know who that somebody might end up being. The guy getting paid the most out of that group. The guy who's supposed to be the centerpiece. I'm talking about Patrick Williams, and honestly, as a fan, this is where my frustration really boils over. So buckle up, because I got some things to say, and I want to hear your side too. So drop a comment when we get there. Patrick Williams has more to prove than literally anybody else on this roster right now, and it's not particularly close. Year after year, we keep waiting for that leap, that jump from promising role player to legitimate difference maker, and year after year, it just doesn't come. If anything, the version of Williams we're seeing now looks like a step backward from a rookie who came into the league averaging over 9 points and close to 5 rebounds a night. That's not what player development is supposed to look like 5 years into a career. The most frustrating part for me isn't even the box score, it's the way he plays. This guy is built like an action figure. He's got the frame, the length, the athleticism to bully his way to the rim every single night. And instead, he shies away from contact. He avoids using his body the way a player with his physical tools should. Last season, he posted the worst shooting percentage of his entire career, dipping to 37.2% from the field. Let that sink in for a guy who's supposed to be a franchise cornerstone. Now, to give credit where it's due, because I try to be fair even when I'm frustrated, Williams has actually developed into a solid floor spacer. His three-point shooting has settled in around 38%, which honestly is better than most people expect out of former Florida State forward who was exactly known as a knockdown shooter in college. That part of his game deserves recognition. But here's the problem, and this is where I really need you guys to weigh in down in the comments, because I want to know if I'm being too harsh. Shooting well from three isn't enough when you're not doing anything else consistently. He's not attempting enough threes to make that spacing matter on a nightly basis. His defense isn't impactful enough to make up the difference either. You can't trust him to create off the dribble. He's not an aggressive rebounder. He's not racking up steals. And he's not protecting the rim as a weak side shot blocker. When you add all of that up, you get a guy who's become almost invisible on a basketball court. And that's the harshest thing I can say about a former top 5 pick. Sure, he'll have a nice stat line here and there, a flashy box score on a random Tuesday, but flashes aren't the same as reliability. And reliability is what earns you minutes on a competitive roster. Here's the thing, though, and this is important context. The old front office never had the stomach to move on from him. Karnisovas and Eversley handed him a 5-year, $90 million guaranteed contract, and letting go of that pick, admitting that swing and miss, would have been an admission that their big bet didn't pay off. Their jobs were tied to making Patrick Williams work. So of course they kept running him out there no matter what the film showed. Bryson Graham doesn't have that baggage. This new front office didn't sign that check. They didn't make that bet. And that changes everything about how they're going to handle playing time going forward. If Williams wants real minutes on this new-look roster, he is going to have to go out and earn every single one of them. And that is going to be brutally difficult given the sheer number of forwards fighting for the same spots. Wilson and Buzelis are locks to see significant run because they're the future of this franchise. Swain was handpicked by this new regime, which means he's going to get every opportunity to prove he belongs. Okoro, who nobody would call a star, has still consistently outplayed Williams on both ends of the floor. And then there's Leonard Miller, who exploded in the second half of last season and looked so good on film that the front office actually exercised his contract option. Miller fits exactly what this new regime wants out of forward 2. There's a small window here for Williams. If Swain ends up playing more minutes at shooting guard, or if the coaching staff decides to send him down for more seasoning, that could open up a lane. Okoro's inconsistent outside shooting could also create an opportunity if Williams can actually knock down shots at a higher rate. But when you stack him up against every single forward on this roster right now, he's the one guy who has done the least to earn his spot. And look, maybe this is the year everything clicks. Maybe a new coach and a fresh voice like Tiago Splitter is exactly what this kid needs to finally unlock whatever potential is still buried in there. I genuinely hope so, because as a fan, watching a former top 5 pick waste away is one of the most frustrating things you can experience. But hope isn't a strategy, and all we can go off of right now is what we've actually seen on the court, and what we've seen as a guy who has become dead weight on the salary cap. For now, the Bulls can absorb that, because they got plenty of financial flexibility, even with Williams pulling in $18 million a year through the 2028-29 season. But that flexibility isn't unlimited, and it's going to get a lot more complicated the moment Bryson Graham wants to make an aggressive move in the trade market or free agency. So don't be shocked if trade rumors start swirling around Patrick Williams sometime this season. The problem is, moving that contract could actually make the front office even more hesitant to be aggressive elsewhere, and the last thing the Bulls want to do is attach extra draft capital just to convince another team to take on his salary, which is almost certainly what it would take right now. Realistically, their best shot might be finding a team that's already trying to complete a bigger trade and needs Williams' salary to help the money work on paper. Even that is a long shot at this point. So that's where I land on this. I think this front office is finally doing things the right way, building to the draft, adding veterans who actually mentor instead of just collecting a paycheck, and not being afraid to bench a former lottery pick if he isn't producing. But I also think Patrick Williams is running out of runway, and if he doesn't show real growth this season, we could be looking at his last year in a Bulls uniform. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Patrick Williams turns it around under Tiago Splitter, or is his time in Chicago basically over? Smash that like button. If you're still holding out hope for him, drop a comment with your prediction and subscribe to the channel, because we're going to be tracking every single move this new front office makes all season long. Thanks for watching, Bulls fans, and I'll see you in the next one.